Hey, muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. And as always, muchísimas gracias to everyone for you guys' words, prayers, time, and for everything you do put down and express as sent my way. De cora se los agradezco. Now, to get into the story on him, today I want to touch on a homie from Hawaiian Gardens, right? And basically how he went always doing the correct thing. But, when it comes to the M, as I stated over and over again, what you do in one spot won't have a meaning in a different spot, right? Or in some cases, you could be doing your thing, you could be doing everything correct, but one of your homeboys decides to do something, and since you're the same neighborhood, of course, them tecatos, they're gonna try to come up on you or your neighborhood or of the situation, right? For whatever reason. But anyhow, today I want to speak about the Pili Night from Artesia and the homie boxer from Hawaiian Gardens. And basically how I came across it, right? On my experience note, as you guys know, that's all I speak on, right? But anyways, I was up in Pelican Bay in the shoe when there was a lot of homies taking action on Hudas, right? And without pointing angles or nothing, but you were hearing it a lot in the southeast, right? Which was Whittier, Norwalk, them areas, Artesia, and Hawaiian Gardens, all that area, right? Remember, it would always reach back there, right? Because messing with the Huda means bringing heat, Popo coming down and cracking down hard on the neighborhood, and of course, slowing down production, or money being sent to where it needs to be sent, right? Which in the overall scheme is what matters, right? At least in our walk, in our type of politics, right? But anyways, I don't remember exact the year, right? But it was from 2007 to 2009, somewhere there. There was a homie that under whatever reasons out there in Hawaiian Gardens, he took a peace officer out, right? A Huda. And, he didn't have that mental capacity on him, right? Because, from the teeth out, it's easy to everyone comment on, yeah, I gotta go to prison and earn my badge, but can you handle the cell, the backlash? For example, you mess with a Huda, you get into counting prison eggs, that jackets. It's gonna be there, and they're always gonna mess with you. Period. But anyways, I don't remember that. I remember the conversations amongst this incident, right? But the camarada's name, I don't remember. I know he was from Hawaiian Gardens, right? And I'll touch on how I knew. But anyways, we're hearing it, and of course, there was gonna be there was going to be actions taken upon that because shortly after this vato took the Huda out, like I stayed, they came down and they did a big old RICO case on Hawaiian Gardens, right? Which, I want to make clear, at this time you heard about the homie boxer doing his thing out there, for numerous appeals, but most of all for Nido, right? And you heard nothing but good things about the individual, right? Like I stated, mainly I want to concentrate on Nido and him, right? That he was doing everything correct, but the ricochet from the life of the officer came down on the whole neighborhood, right? And it would eventually lead to Boxer getting a lot of time. I forgot if it was 25, 30 years, somewhere there. But nevertheless, it was a RICO case, so he was going to go to the feds. And as the vato that took the Huda out and brought all this heat on the neighborhood and slowed everything down, he was done, period. But I guess the homie, he was on a good one out there, or I don't know, as far as I heard, when they tried to reach out for him to get hit, right? The vato had already went 5150 on everyone and had basically called it in, right? Because my belief is he seen the writing on the wall. He knew the the downfall, and he must have known who was who, and he knew the effect, right, of his actions. So he decided to, again, everything I heard from my belief, he was playing the part to just check in, right? But again, don't quote me on nothing. I know the vatos like that. But anyways, went down. A lot of homies, I think, from Hawaiian Gardens went down because of Homewood, right? And again, it was the neighborhood that was doing everything correctly, right? In a lot of the angles and aspects. Anyways, as you guys know, time went by, and 2015, it's when I caught my ticket, right, to the Federicos came for me. So I went out there, and I went through Eloy, then I went out there where Sana was, and that's where I personally knew the camarada boxer. And I started to learn a little bit more on how things had happened. Basically, the camarada's unfold, right? Which is steps that if you've been around like a campolero, you should know, You gotta get to a spot, put yourself in this position, and at the time that things happen, night I was still in state. So of course, you get to new surroundings, you gotta blend in with who's there, right? And you gotta fall under them rules and regulations. So the homie did. And he kept pressing to do his thing for his neighborhood, and his neighborhood do his thing for him, right? And on the yard, as I said it before, there was a lot of Billies, but the main one, excuse me, the boxer was doing moves with was Joe, right? And everything was cool. I mean, the first month too, everything was cool. The camarada was held still under high rate guards. He was doing his thing. He had a lot of support from his neighborhood. And then that day came, right? Where that Paloma or that Amapil came from Night Owl. And Night Owl was upset. You see, Atecato don't take losses. And he was mad. One, because of he couldn't touch the vato that brought the heat, right, and took down whatever he had going out there. And two, basically, because Boxer did what you're entitled to as a campolero, but again, focus on whatever you're doing have no meaning in a different yard, except when it comes to these vatos' pockets, right? They don't like it and they're gonna push for it. So, he basically reached out there and was putting all the blame of that Rico case on Boxer. So basically, yeah, Joe stuck up for him, right? To the point where he's a good camarada, right? So, the agreement to allow the homie to keep walking was for him to go ahead and send a little something here and there to Night Out and not made him feel like he got put on the shine, right? Or he didn't have the opportunity to reach out to someone for all the losses he took. It ain't like it was a camarada's fault, right? And the one that was in fault, well, I'm not positive if it was in county. Yeah, they couldn't reach out to him in county no more before he got to death row, right? But basically, this is a true camarada campolero, bringing money, putting in work, older than me by some years, right? So he's been there, done that, done the shooting, done everything the way he's supposed to, and most importantly, hits the street and he's still providing for the causa, for a member in this area, right? And he does what you're supposed to do as a sureño, which is you get to a pinta, you, you put yourself in this position to who has the jardín. As you go from state to fed, you do the same, right? And you don't bring drama from a different pili to the yard, because that could be your career, right? But Nairo utilizes all this. But, Joe, he's not going to take the loss. So what do? You take a soldado and you start torturing them. Forget what they're already doing with neighborhoods and all of that, having people pay rent and all that. It's more on a personal tip. Because I'm pretty sure Boxer did not tell his homeboys, right, that he was being taken by the person he was representing on the calles, right? Because again, ego comes into play, But at one point, it was talked about camaradas, right? That he knew, Boxer knew he was gonna get whacked, because eventually Joe was gonna pull out and he wasn't gonna have that backing, right? So Night Out, I come across different things of Night Out, but never on a personal note, besides this. But everything I heard, he was one of them individuals, right? That liked his feria, like his negra, and no camarada held more weight than his vicio, right? But anyways, I ended up splitting from there and going to Florence, AC, and I don't know what ended up happening, right? But again, this was a good homie. Did everything correctly. Yes, Naira was upset because his own homeboy brought the heat upon and brought a lot of down to whatever he had going out there. But would you say it's Boxer's fault? Or for all those hard campoleros that get on the comments and state this and that, don't know what you're getting into.
It's real easy to pump your chest and speak, while you're ready to buck up and boot up and boogie when things come to play. Cause tell me what part of gangster is it when someone is extorting you for something you're not responsible. So for you to keep them float and not having to lock it up, you have to pay rent. Your jefita sends you $100, you gotta send this individual 50. That's not gangster, right? As speaking out the neck and the comments ain't gangster, put your real name and you'll see they'll reach out to you. But anyways, basically that's what I wanted to pinpoint on this message. Again, don't quote me on this, but I stayed in touch with a homie, right? From Sangra that was on the yard, and he said eventually Boxer tried to take off on a Pili, which you have no option to go south, right? But you guys answer me this under what reason? Besides greed, dolphin movidas, or somebody feeling superior on on a homie. I want to leave this with this. I want to leave this angle on my message in this video, which is, you know, as I always say, don't allow them fake older homies to get out and brainwash you. How it's Disneyland inside. You can earn your points, or you could be on the streets. See, I was that one young individual on the streets that thought I could go in and just be what I was used to, right? With cholos, with gangsters. Nah. See, that goes out the window. You're gonna mind somebody, and you're gonna mind him the way he dictates. That's all admit. That fool lying to you ain't your homeboy. There's a lot of good people out there that's trying to guide people in the right direction without having to mention marcas nor angles, right? But pay attention. Just tell me what's gangster about having these individuals, bunch of dope things in your pocket, dictating your neighborhood. Not only that, but once you get inside, dictating every action. And it's not optional. And believe me, it's not dishonorable either. Cause, well, I'm already stupid enough, but to say it's this and that, I'll be, I was there. It's the causa, right? So I'm not saying go against the causa, nah. Smart up. There's better things in that, man. Love your neighborhood, love your homies, you know, but to know how to separate things, times, places, and know what it's gonna really lead to. I mean, look at the homie boxer, he was out there making feria, moving his neighborhood, however he was doing it. Again, I happen to have the pleasure, I'll say it like that. I've seen what he was doing for Joe before Tecolote felt some type of way, because whatever he was making out of boxer being on the streets, it's not wrong for you to go to the feds and fall in line. It's what we're supposed to do. Again, remember, we're always taught not to go against the grain. But that only fits when it's us. When it's them, of course, they're above the program, right? With this, I'm just saying, stay true to your neighborhood, to your homies, to yourself. But be wise. There is no such thing as a solid campolero. You could do a million things correct and get to the yard and simply not even do it, but someone could feel disrespected. And I'm talking about this individual, right? And none of that matters. You're done. So value your freedom. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Remember, those are the ones that are going to stay true to you. I hope I made sense to everybody. Talk to everyone soon in the live. Buenas noches. Tu gracia triunfó.